also because in the Indian colonies a Sanskrit scholar and the authority of Tamil Vedic scripture and a direct disciple successor of the Holiness Swami Satchidananda Saraswati Mataji of Divine Life Society, who was the
Smile. Greetings from Ashtanga Yoga Mandir, Sri Lanka. Thank you for joining the 10th session of the Dhyana meditation series and the second lecture of the Semmoli Yoga pre-conference. Today's discourse is on Dhyana to Samadhi by Sri Vyasa Kalyana Sundaram, the Chief Yoga Instructor of Ashtanga Yoga Mandir and Swami Vivekananda Cultural Center, and of course a beloved mentor to many. Before we proceed, there are a few important points that needs to be followed by the audience. Please keep your microphones muted during the session, and please note that questions can only be raised through chat. To welcome our eminent speaker, I'd like to hand over the controls to Mr. Muttaya Satishwaran, yoga instructor of AYM. Over to you, sir.
Good evening, sir. On behalf of Ashtanga Mandir, welcome Kalyan Sundarji and other participation for the Dhyana program, the second Semmoli Yoga lecture of series. Mr. Vyasa Kalyan Sundaramji is at Ashtanga Yoga Mandir. He learned yoga philosophy from Swati Selvam Kalyana Sundaram BA, a Sanskrit scholar and an authority of yogic scripture and the direct of Swami Sinananda Saraswati Maharaji of Divine Society, who was the first sannyas disciple of His Holiness Swami Sivananda Saraswati Maharaj of Rishikesh. He was initiated to the Hatha Yoga tradition by His Holiness Swami Jataramagiri, the Madhipadi of Sri Devani Amdevasana, Kurgaon, Sri Lanka, at the age of 5. He learned Kriya Kulani from eminent yoga person Dr. Ramanathan. He is also yoga instructor of Swami Vivekananda Cultural Center, the cultural unit of Indian High Commission in Sri Lanka. It gives me great pleasure in inviting all participation to today's session. Over to Vyasaji.
Greetings to all of you from Ashtanga Yoga Mandir. And today is one of the most wonderful days. It's Christmas. The message generally in all these festivals is given that we have to elevate our consciousness to those great personalities. So today, generally world over, it is celebrated as a festival, but generally it is one of the greatest spiritual day in the calendar of an year. With those words, I thank all of you who are with me today. I am here because most of the resource persons have had some other commitments. So the organizers put me here today to give a brief explanation on the topic of Dhyana to Samadhi. I am not a meditator, neither I am a scholar in this subject. All what I am intending to explain is all what I learned from my guru, my mother. Sometimes there was one of my friend who texted me a few days back and told me we are expecting a high level of presentation. Then I said to him, the first basic qualities in yoga is that never ever have any expectation either on you or on anyone. So, with those words, I request you not to have any expectation from this presentation, but it is a happy gathering on a Christmas day to discuss about the few aspects of Dhyana. We will start the session with a Dhyana practice. Sit comfortably. I will explain the structure to you all. First, I want you to observe your breath for a minute. When I tell you to stop, you will stop, and you will know what is the count of your breath. That is, the breath goes up, the breath comes down is one count. In a minute, just tell it to yourself what is your count. Then we will do a Dirgha Swasa. After doing the Dirgha Swasa, recite 9 times of your name. You will keep your eyes closed and you will recite 9 times of your name. And after that, you will recite and think of all the greatest things your parents, whether living or non-living, is immaterial. All the great things your parents have done to you. And after that, you will be reciting 9 times of any mantra of your faith. Each of us will have some mantra, a holy prayer. You will recite it for 9 times. And after reciting that for 9 times of a mantra, you will contemplate on your Ishta Devata. Ishta Devata means the spiritual path of what you are following. You will contemplate on the divine, on the God. This whole structure of this methodology, nowadays we make it as branding, you know. So this method of all these, the whole process of this methodology is called as the Pradibaksha Bhavana Dhyana. Basically, to inculcate the gratitude to our parents. Because you will see in our holy scriptures, Mata, Pita, Guru, Devi. This is the structure. Mata, the mother, the Pita is your father. So you give the complete reverence to your parents. And that is the starting process for a successful dhyana. So this is going to be the structure of the practice, and from there we will go ahead. So sit comfortably, make yourself comfortable, gently close your eyes. Those who are having the specs, you can just slowly remove, because the weight of the specs will have an impact on your breathing flow. Start. Slowly you will observe the breath. Breath moving up and down is one count. Slowly stop the movement. You will be knowing your count of breath. Gently take your right palm, keep it over the chest, and take your left palm, keep it over the navel region. So your hand will be like this. So your thumb will be at the throat region, starting from here. Keep it. Keep your hands relaxed. Slowly look at your tip of your nose. Whenever you feel like, you will close your eyes. Just observe your breath once again. Breathe in. Breathe out. 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 Keep your eyes closed and gently keep your hands down, relaxed. And just slowly start reciting your name within yourself. 9 times. And now slowly picturize your parents. Take one of the greatest contribution that they have done to you. You can take up one of the greatest and the most beautiful value that they have given to you. You can recollect one of the best lessons they have given to you, or whatever the beautiful memories which they have given to you for your complete development and success. And now slowly recite within yourself any of the prayer or mantra of your choice. 9 times. Once you have completed the mantra, you will go on reciting the name of the Ishta Devata or the divine. It can be the sound, it can be the light, it can be an image of your choice. Fill yourself with the most greatest quality of gratitude to your parents. Thank them. Bless them. Keep yourself open to receive their wisdom. Keep yourself completely open to receive their knowledge, whatever the realm they may be in. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Gently open your eyes. So this is the primary, one of the most simplest method of meditation or dhyana, which is called as the Bradi Bhaksha Bhavana Dhyana. So we are trying to understand the concept of dhyana, and all our eminent scholars, this is the 10th session. Our respected Pulimud Sir, Maniji, and all the other monks, Velan Swamigal, have all given you the fundamentals of meditation. So it becomes so easy for me not to touch on fundamentals, but to collectively give what they spoke. That is the most easiest thing, so that we'll be able to recollect. So basically, what is meditation? Meditation has different explanation according to the different tradition and according to the level of humans. But for us, basically what is a meditation means, whatever the vision we have taken up in our life as a goal, to ensure that the mind is completely into that till we achieve that goal, and that methodology of that practice is what is called as the fundamental in the practice of meditation. Each of us have a vision. Each of us have a goal. So when we have a life, in our life, a specific goal and an achievement, and when our mind is completely with that, that is the primary stage of meditation. You will take in this whole world that if you take any object, every object has a certain quality. If you take a flower, the nature of the flower is softness. If you take the nature of a stone, it is rough. That is the nature. Mind is not like that. Mind has the dual nature. Dual nature means suphavam. So basically you will see, if you take a light, light has two characteristics. One, either it is in the wave form or in the particle form. All of you know that. Same way, the mind also has two optional aspects within it. One is grahanam dharanam. What does that mean is, basically, whatever the knowledge it is able, it will be able to have it within self. Lot of knowledges which you will gain. So it will be very focused. Hearing, visualizing. When you eat, you are able to taste the food, and all that absorbing sharply, that has that ability. At the same time, it also has the nature of restlessness. These are the two opposite qualities which can happen at any change of microsecond. As this is the nature of the mind, it is very important for us to train the mind to ensure to whatever the goal we want to achieve. So in the yoga terminology, the mind is called as andhakaranas. What is andhakarana means? Andham means internal, an internal tool to achieve something. Manam, buddhi, ahankaram. So when it comes into this, we are not going to touch siddham, because in andhakarana siddha also comes, siddham also comes into it. But basically what is, whatever you receive from your senses, from your indriyas, the mind receives it. Once the mind receives it, it starts to identify it. Once it starts to identify this is that, Now, once I see you, I know, yes, this is Mr. Matthew uncle is there, and then so-and-so is there, Mrs. Sivasudaji is there, Mr. J. Kumarji is there. Already that information has gone into my head, and then what my buddhi tries to recognize it. And once the buddhi starts to recognize it, it starts to endorse it. That is where the ahankara comes into. So in these three stages, it is important the mind receives everything, and mind is the only mind which comes into these different aspects. So it is very important that we need to churn the mind, we need to train the mind, and if you don't churn the mind, that specific mind will become a diamond box filled with sorrow and anger and depression and worries. Once upon a time, in a palace, there was a group of ministers seated, and the king saw the chief minister and asked him, "Why do you look so worried?" The chief minister said, "King, for the past 1 week, I'm not able to sleep well. There is a rat which is coming and troubling me, and I'm not able to sleep well." Then the king said, "Why are you so worried like that? Why don't you take my cat? It looks like a dog. Why don't you take it? It will solve your problem." And in every kingdom, you will see there will be a spiritual master. Immediately, that spiritual master said, "Please don't send the cat." But the king said, "You take the cat." Minister was so happy. He took the cat. He went home. First day he didn't come. Second day he didn't come. Third day he didn't come. The seventh day he came with the cat. And the king asked, "How is my cat?" The minister said, "Cat could not catch the rat." The king got confused. How is that my cat could not catch? And then he saw the spiritual master, and the spiritual master said, "Go to a village, get a cat, and take it home." So the minister went, he gets a cat from a very poor man's house and takes it. And then he comes on the following day with a very jubilant mind. And he looks at the king, and the king asks, "What happened?" He said, "Yes, my rat has been killed." And again, he looked at the spiritual master. He said, "Oh, king, your cat is fed with food even in unwanted times. Your cat has not been trained or has not been skilled enough to catch a rat. But in a poor man's house in a village, he is not going to give a lot of food for it. He will only give the balance so that the cat is well trained by itself with its skill, and it has been catching the rat for its survival." Same way, if we don't train our mind, the mind becomes only as an informational collector. And when there are challenges coming up in ourselves, mind is not programmed enough. The mind does not have the skill to face the challenge which is coming internally and externally. And that is where the Yoga Shastras gives the emphasization that the mind needs to be trained from the age of young. What is the necessity? Because we have a mind. Now, for example, if you don't do exercises, what happens? Your weight increases. You may have different health-related issues. So minimum you will walk 100 foot in a day. Even if you don't do that 100 walking, the body's immunity starts to reduce. Same way, as your software needs to be upgraded and updated, what is most important? Mind-related practices and the mind-related strengthening is required. And for that mind-related strengthening, only in the process of Ashtanga Yoga, there are various methodologies which has been explained. So in the Ashtanga Yoga, all of you know Yama. Yama is a yogam, Niyamam is a yogam, Asanam, Pranayamam. Then comes the Pratyaharam, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. So basically in that what happens is the first methodology is your mind needs to train your senses. Why? Is because the Upanishad says then your body, your senses are strong. Then your senses, your mind is strong. Then your mind, your buddhi is strong. Then your buddhi, your intuition is strong. Then the intuition, the Atma, the soul is strong. So the first primary principle of the middle, the most important person who needs to be trained is the mind. And once we start to churn the mind, then it becomes of a great aspect. So this is basically what it is being explained. So what is this training happens? So you need to know in meditation, in the primary meditational methodology, whenever you sit for dhyana, just imagine this is your mind. So once you start to sit to meditate, already your mind has lots of information. This information is classified into two. One that brings you peacefulness, and that the other one which brings you excitement. All what brings excitement will come under two categories. One which will give you happiness, and the other one which will give you peacefulness. The first category of the mind, which gives you that great silence, comes into the category of the management of samadhi. And the other aspects which we are all involved in, the excitement, comes into these two categories of happiness and sadness. So when it comes into this happiness and sadness, once you start to sit your mind, so the first principle in meditation is, whenever you sit for meditation, other thoughts, unwanted thoughts will come. If unwanted thoughts do not come, that means you are in the highest level of meditation and you have entered the level of samadhi. Are you clear with this? So whenever any of you sit for meditation, be happy that if any thoughts comes. So here what happens, your mind is there, your negative thoughts are up, so these thoughts starts dominating. So in these dominating thoughts, what happens, bringing these dominating thoughts, because this is an uninvited guest at that moment of sitting. So this uninvited guest will be brought down and down and down. So bringing that process down is what in Ashtanga Yoga, lots of emphasization has been given. So you do the mantras, you do the asanas, and all the other ritualistic practices is basically used for this gap. This is dominating unwanted negative thoughts. So once you give the ingredients of the mantras, when you have a practice of the asanas, when you have all the other ritualistic practices, this so-called uninvited guest becomes lesser powerful, and it becomes lesser and lesser and lesser and lesser, and then it becomes into the equal state. So here what happens, the amount of thought what you are wanted and the amount of unwanted thoughts will become equal. And then what happens, you use the technique of pranayama and pratyahara, and then what happens, you make this thought helpless, powerless, restless. That whole process is what is used in dharanas. In the dharana methodology, basically that only happens. And so once that level comes, then you go into the level of samadhi. So basically, what is the level of samadhi? So you will see that Patanjali explains the level of samadhi in the highest way. Two personalities, lots of scriptures have explained that in great detail, but in very good detail, Patanjali and Tirumular who wrote the Tirumantram, have explained the levels of Samadhi. I'll give you one story of Samadhi. What is exactly Samadhi? Sometimes we always have an idea whether is there a stage of Samadhi. All of you know, mostly those who are coming from India, you know these Kanchi Paramacharya, Swamigal of the Kanchi Mutt. There was two great known saints in the modern time, to my knowledge. A lot of saints. One was Kanchi Shankaracharya, who lived up to 100 years. Then at the same parallel time in Sri Lanka, there was a great saint called Yoga Swamigal. If time permits, I'll explain about the levels of that Yoga Swamigal Samadhi level. So what happens generally, Shankaracharya, the Paramahamsa Shankaracharya, went to a place in Andhra, in a place called Kurnool. He does these thick vijayams. He goes to place and he does prayers. So there was a one eminent personality of the village in the Kurnool in Andhra. He said, "Sir, Swamiji, you please come and stay with me." So for 21 days, he said, "I need to do some mantra bhavanas. So I will come and be in your house." So when he goes, there's a team of people also goes with him. So they were getting ready for the puja, because you will know that in the Shastra system, Shankaracharya always does his Nitya puja. So after he does the puja only, he will have food. After he has food only, all his disciples and others all will get settled. So when he was getting ready, all the flowers and everything came, and he also carries his the statue. What he does is prayer.